My parents only valued my sister's achievements. When they called me a parasite at a gathering, I finally cut them off. Growing up in a quiet coastal town, I always felt like an afterthought in my own family. My younger sister, Clara, was the golden child, the one whose every achievement was celebrated, whose every wish was fulfilled. I, on the other hand, was the responsible and self-sufficient one. Qualities that, instead of earning me praise, seemed to make me invisible. Clara was 6 years younger than me, and from the moment she was born, it was clear she was the favorite. Our parents doted on her, ensuring she had the best education, the best extracurricular opportunities, and the best gifts. Her birthdays were grand affairs with decorations, elaborate cakes, and expensive presents, while mine were nothing more than an obligatory dinner overshadowed by the fact that they always merged it with our Christmas celebrations. My gifts were usually practical items like textbooks or stationery, while Clara received designer clothes and the latest gadgets. The disparity extended beyond material things. Our parents attended every one of Clara's swimming competitions, cheering for her from the stands, but when I had my final track meet in middle school, they didn't even bother showing up. The only acknowledgement I received was a bouquet of flowers from Clara, a small gesture of kindness that was both heartwarming and bittersweet. Our grandparents occasionally tried to balance the scales, urging our parents to treat us equally. But when they passed away, their moderating influence disappeared. With them gone, Clara's pedestal grew even higher, and I became little more than a background figure in my own home. Despite the lack of support, I found solace in technology. I developed an interest in software engineering, teaching myself how to code in the evenings after school. College had always been an uncertain prospect for me. While my parents were prepared to fund Clara's higher education without hesitation, my future was my own responsibility. With no financial backing, I took a job as a junior software developer at a local tech firm right after high school. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a foot in the door, and I was determined to make something of myself. I worked long hours, often skipping meals and social outings, to take online courses and refine my programming skills. Home became a place I visited less frequently, not out of necessity but by choice. My career was a source of quiet pride, but my parents dismissed it as insignificant compared to Clara's academic pursuits. They saw my work as something anyone could do, something unworthy of recognition. I stopped trying to impress them, choosing instead to pour my energy into excelling in my field. Over the years, I advanced from an entry-level developer to a lead software engineer, managing projects and mentoring new hires. Meanwhile, Clara, always the high achiever, was accepted into an elite medical school in the city. When she received her acceptance letter, our parents threw a lavish celebration, inviting friends and neighbors to boast about their brilliant daughter. I offered my congratulations sincerely, but my presence barely registered amid the excitement. Shortly before Clara was set to begin her studies, she confided in me about a financial concern. Although her tuition was covered, her school encouraged a sizable donation from students' families, an unofficial expectation that carried social weight. Our parents, eager to maintain appearances, wanted to contribute but couldn't afford the full amount. Instead of approaching me directly, they hinted to Clara that she should ask me for help. Despite the sting of their indirect request, I agreed. I covered the donation and other miscellaneous fees, ensuring that Clara could start medical school without financial worries. It was an unspoken understanding that I would receive no gratitude from our parents, but I told myself I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for Clara, who, despite our differences, had at least shown me kindness when we were younger. With her new life at university, Clara became distant. Our conversations grew infrequent, our interactions brief. When she did reach out, it was usually for small favors, a book she needed, a problem she wanted help with, and I obliged without hesitation. I told myself it was normal. She was busy, medical school was demanding. But when we did meet, I noticed the shift in her demeanor. She spoke less to me and more at me, as if I were an acquaintance rather than family. When I tried to lighten the mood with memories of our childhood, she brushed me off, subtly reinforcing the hierarchy that had been drilled into her. She was important. I was not. Things came to a head when we both returned home for the holidays. Our parents welcomed Clara with a feast, inviting neighbors and family friends to celebrate her achievements. I watched as she spoke animatedly about her studies, basking in the admiration of those around her. At one point, an elderly neighbor asked about my career, and before I could answer, Clara and my parents dismissed my work as unremarkable. "She's trying her best, but it's nothing compared to what Clara is doing," my mother said, her voice laced with casual disregard. I clenched my fists under the table, swallowing the familiar bitterness. But it was Clara's next words that cut the deepest. "You come home quite often," she remarked, smirking. "Maybe that's because you don't really care about your career." Laughter rippled through the room, my parents joining in. It wasn't just a joke. It was a confirmation of everything I had always known. That in their eyes, I was lesser. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Understood," I said coldly. "Don't expect me next year." With that, I walked away, grabbed my coat, and left. I didn't look back. For months, I maintained my distance. Then, out of nowhere, Clara reached out. Her messages were frantic, her calls persistent. When I finally answered, she hesitated before asking if I had covered her tuition for the year. I reminded her that I had already paid the initial donation but had not been informed about any additional costs. Her panic was palpable. Our parents had assured her they had the situation under control, but their finances had unraveled. Desperate, she was now turning to me for help. I refused. Days later, our parents called, demanding I cover the tuition. Their words were not requests but expectations, their entitlement unwavering. I stood firm, ignoring the guilt they tried to heap upon me. My years of financial support had gone unappreciated, my efforts dismissed. Now, they only saw me as a bank account, not as family. When Clara sent one final message, practically begging for help, I hesitated. For a moment I almost relented. But her words carried the same condescension as before. She didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge the years of mistreatment. She only framed her request in a way that suited her. I saved the message in a separate folder, deleted the rest, and blocked her number. Months passed, and through mutual acquaintances I learned that Clara had managed to scrape together her second-year tuition through scholarships and loans. But with no financial cushion, she struggled to balance her studies and part-time work. Eventually, she dropped out. Our parents, left with no options, took her back home. Their once proud boasts had faded into quiet embarrassment. My father, overwhelmed by stress, made a mistake at work that led to his resignation. My mother, unaccustomed to financial hardship, struggled to find employment. The community that once celebrated them now kept its distance. Meanwhile, I thrived. My career had taken off, and I was preparing to pursue a degree in business management to elevate my expertise. Each day I moved further from the past, building a future on my own terms. I had spent years searching for validation from people who never saw me. But now I understood. My worth was never theirs to decide. And as for Clara? She once laughed at my work, dismissed my achievements. But now, as she sat in our childhood home, jobless and aimless, I wondered if she still believed that software engineering was just something anyone could do. By the way, if you've watched this far, it looks like you value well-crafted stories. Wouldn't it be a shame to miss the next one? Go ahead and subscribe. You wouldn't want to be left behind, would you?